they have a star wide receiver there. That's something that he knows that is there, and that's why I think he took the job. They have, I think, the more unique wide receivers we've seen come out of the draft. He reminds me of Justin Jefferson. And when we watched these LSU got wide receivers come out of the draft this last year, everybody was questioning Thomas. Is he really a first-round draft pick? Some people thought he was an early second-round pick. I thought he was the best wide receiver out of all of them all season long. He was elusive. You can move him in the slot. You move him on the outside. He was beating everybody. It didn't matter who was covering him. He was killing everybody they played. It was remarkable. I think Thomas could be another Justin Jefferson. So Cohen going there and getting a star like that, I mean, and if he can find a running back to come and play over them, if they can find a running back to kind of coexist with Thomas and health with that offensive line, which has been going down like a pile of bricks year in and year out, I mean, they might be able to try to fix Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if you could. I think Trevor Lawrence is messed up in the head. I don't know if he'll ever get out of it. It's hard for a quarterback. We've seen that. Maybe going somewhere else might help him. It helped Sam Darnold. It helped other people. It helped Baker Mayfield. Maybe him leaving the Jaguars or the Jaguars deciding to part ways with him and try to move. But they just gave him a long-term deal.
That's why they have
Nobody's
going to
want him.
They have to try this with a quarterback coach before that. He was a quarterback coach with McVay in 2022 and did well, I think, when Baker got there. And then obviously that's why they got the job after I think he spent a year in college. So they have to try that kind of thing to work at least for 2 years before his contract might become quote-unquote tradable if he still doesn't work out at that point, because he's obviously the best quarterback prospect on paper we saw in a while. So they have to make that kind of thing work. And you were talking about Thomas too. Like, the only reason Thomas, I don't think it was more in the rookie of the year conversation was because of really bad coaching in the beginning of the season that wasn't targeting him as much.
Do you think he was the best wide receiver in football?
Easily.
As far as the rookies are concerned?
Definitely.
I thought he was. I don't even think it was an argument.
And again, they're not talked about with Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels in that conversation because
just think
he
about
wasn't used.
Remember the 3 wide receivers that everybody was talking about going into the draft? One went to Chicago, one went to the Giants, and the other went to Arizona. Nobody was talking about Thomas when the Jaguars, went up there and get him. And he has been absolutely remarkable. I'm telling you, this guy is going to be a superstar. That's what I think he's going to be. I think he's a Justin Jefferson type of player. I think if Cohen could do what he did with Mike Evans, to do with this guy who has more speed than Mike Evans on the outside, oh, God.
Not even just Mike Evans. Look at all the replacement receivers, too. Jalen McMillan was their 3rd-round pick in that same draft. Then you had Trey Palmer. You had an older Sterling Shepard that ended up being somewhat productive at the end of the year because of the way that Cohen spaces out the offense. And also the tight ends, too. Like, this is something that Jacksonville needs in their offense to just be a more physical identity, too. They could build all the receivers they want, but they need to be more physical at the line of scrimmage, too. Their offensive line's been really bad for years, and they get too many penalties.
You know what's so funny about Fish and Tommy? I'm looking at the group message over here, and the first thing that pops in their mouth is Nabers had a good year, 109, 1,270, and 7 touchdowns. Yeah, those are great numbers, guys. There's no question. 109 receptions. Just think about that. He saw the ball over 150 times. All right, that's a lot. How many times? Now I'm going to go to Thomas. How many injuries offensively did they have this year? How many injuries? And you keep talking about Trevor Lawrence was out, half the season?
Yeah.
The guy couldn't even stay healthy. Who was throwing him the ball? Who was throwing Thomas the ball? Matt Jones. That's who was throwing him the ball. Could you guys stop? I understand you love your Giants. You want to kiss his ass? Go on your hands and knees and kiss your doors rings when the Giants fucking sign him or draft him. That's what's going to happen. Excuse my language, but it's the truth. Yeah, you Giant fans got to stop.
1,280 and 10 touchdowns on 133 targets.
Thomas was so much better. He was so much better than Nabers. You guys got to stop. He was. Go look at it. Go watch the film. The film doesn't lie. He was the best wide receiver out of all of them. By far.
He says remarkable Justin Jefferson he thinks is a stretch, though. I don't know.
Really?
Skill-wise, I mean,
really?
Justin Jefferson at the time when he got drafted and Thomas skill-wise as a prospect were pretty similar. So don't be surprised. He's already a better deep threat than we thought out of the draft, and he's physical for his physical, good size. And again, his route tree will be expanded once they get actual competent coaching and not Press Taylor as their offensive coordinator.
I just think it's crazy. Now, again, remember, he had 87 receptions for 1,282 yards and 10 touchdowns. He averaged 14.74 in the league, which is in the top 5 in the NFL. This is a rookie, guys. who had Matt Jones throwing him the ball. Think about it. Stop with this craziness. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No,
it's crazy. He was the best rookie wide receiver in football this year.
Also not much attention around them because they're great free agent signing at Gabe Davis.
And in a stretch,
nothing.
In a stretch, what was Justin Jefferson's rookie season? With Justin Jefferson's rookie season as a rookie, I'm going to look up.
I mean, yeah, they were better numbers, but he also had Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, but I'm sure they're not far apart.
No. Like Jefferson's rookie year was unbelievable. But again, Thomas skill-wise, as a prospect, as an LSU wide receiver, can do a lot of the same things as Jefferson.
All right. So Justin Jefferson's rookie season, he had 88 receptions for 1,400 yards, 15.9, which is only a yard more. And he had 7 touchdowns. Honestly, I'm taking the 10 touchdowns and I'm taking 1,282 yards. And he had less catches and less balls thrown at him during the season. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, Brian Thomas had a better year than Justin Jefferson had in his rookie season. So that's my opinion. So I disagree, Keith. So if you're going to sit here and say it's a stretch, it's not a stretch.
He wasn't the wide receiver fantasy 4 for nothing.
It's not a stretch, not a chance. I think it's very doable to kind of compare them. They're almost the same size. They play the same. They run the same kind of routes. They're predominantly the same style of player. Why? Because they come from LSU. Those are the type of wide receivers they find.
Jefferson didn't have all those well-rounded traits, either the bigger body traits at the beginning of his career either. It took him a little while, probably the middle of his rookie season to get that going too. Thomas has that intact.
Tommy, and you're going to say 1,400 yards and 88 catches, okay? He had Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball. This guy at one point was a Pro Bowl player and was a pretty good quarterback. Who is throwing Brian Thomas the ball? Matt friggin' Jones.